Hello, and welcome to Improbable Things. I'm J. Grace Pennington, and this is my podcast where I share 6 improbable thoughts before breakfast, which, for the purposes of this podcast, consists of 6 thoughts about reading, writing, or storytelling in some form or fashion. So I have my 6 things, which includes a whole bunch of news for all of you, so let's get started. So first, before I start, I just wanted to say, after I published 2 weeks ago, my most recent podcast, I got a text from my brother saying that it was very echoey and to the point that it was very hard to understand. And I had noticed when I was getting it up that the audio quality didn't seem to be all that good. So I'm trying something a little different this week, seeing if it'll help. So we'll see how that goes. Let me know. Thank you for bearing with me over this whole learning curve. And I have more to say about the podcast in a little bit, but just wanted to get that out of the way before we dive into our 6 things. So number 1, I did get through all the editing and everything else I needed to do on Permanent Progenitor, my next book, and got it sent off to my formatter a little less than a week ago. And I had originally wanted to publish today, but I got it to her so late and she's very busy, so it's going to be probably, a few more days. I think it'll still be less than a week at this point, but we're pretty much ready to go, just waiting to get that formatting done. I have all my other files set. I had the project set up on Kindle Direct Publishing, so we are very close to getting that book to all of you, and I'm so excited because even going through editing it, even though I've been through it several times, I was kind of enjoying it. So I always feel weird saying that, but it's true. So I'm really hoping all of you will enjoy it as well, and I'll keep you updated about the release date. Number 2, and this is the reason that I did not do a podcast last week. I'll backtrack a little bit because it's kind of a long story. So a friend and client of mine that I've done audiobooks for has been wanting to, she's talked to a lot of people that have put their audiobooks on YouTube with a lot of success. And so she wanted to try that with some of the books we did together, and obviously needed to get my permission since we split the royalties, and I was down for it. I was super excited to try something new. So she kind of is working on getting that started, and then she suggested I should do the same with my audiobooks. And particularly since I have the ebook free for the first book, so I thought, at the very least, getting the first book up on YouTube would be a good experiment. So I've been wanting to do that for quite a while, but it just took me a long time, or longer than I anticipated, to get it recorded. Since I can't record at home, and so time is a little limited, but I did finish getting it recorded and have been working on getting it edited. So, and it's also got me excited to hopefully finish recording the rest of the series, whether I end up putting those on YouTube or not. But then I started doing some research, and because I'm not a YouTube person and I just don't know anything, I didn't know that to get monetized on YouTube, there are certain requirements you have to meet. So you have to have a certain number of subscribers, and you have to have a certain number of hours of video watched on your channel within within a 12-month period. So, I realized, all right, I gotta work up to this. So, one thing I thought about doing, I thought, first of all, I have all this content from this podcast for the last few years, so I could, put those in video format, just with, some still image in the background, and get those up on YouTube just to get some hours of stuff up there. And then I thought, I'm not doing this today, but I've thought at some point I might consider putting the podcast itself in video form, because I'm going to eventually put the new ones up on YouTube. I'm just still working on the backlog right now, but I would love to hear from y'all if there's any interest in having video be a part of the podcast. I'm not a person that likes, having my face on video very much, but I'd be open to it if people were interested, or at least open to experimenting with it. So that's one thing I'm going to be getting up on my YouTube channel, going to be getting the Radiality audiobook and possibly, most likely, other audiobooks as well. And I have some other ideas for projects I want to put up there, some talking about writing and different things. So would love it if anyone listening would follow, or I guess the word is subscribe, subscribe to my channel. The channel is just called J. Grace Pennington. The tagline is J. Grace the author. So I need 1,000 subscribers. So help me out if you don't mind. And for now, it's just the podcast on there, but I have some other things that are going to be going up soon. So thank you. And I will keep you updated on the future of the podcast. So number 3, let's see, I guess it was last week or the week before. Anyway, recently we went to visit my parents. And I think I've talked before, I still have huge boxes of books in storage at their place. And not only, do I want to take those off their hands and just in general to have them, but I had gotten a couple of the boxes from them probably about a year ago and thought there were some specific books in there recently that I wanted to read, and went looking and they weren't there. So I thought, oh, there's all those other books, maybe they're in there. So I told my mom I wanted to take a couple more, went up into the top of their storage building while I was there and found I have 3 more boxes still. And these are huge, like Rubbermaid boxes, absolutely full. So we could only fit 2 in our car. So we brought a couple more home, and I already knew it's very unlikely I'm going to be keeping all of these, because these are from back when my philosophy was you have to keep every book that ever comes into your possession forever. And plus now that I've found a good place to resell books, I'm much more likely to let them go, because I know that they can contribute toward in-store credit where I can get books that I actually want. So we brought those home and I went through them, ended up emptying one whole box, either of books to sell or books that I am actively wanting to read. And then there's also a pile of books that I don't know, that there's some books I literally have no recollection of what they are or why I have them. So I'm like, I feel like I can't get rid of a book if I'm not sure I don't want it. So I'm going to be doing some quick reading through a couple stacks of books. So I may have some random and interesting content on the currently reading section of the podcast for a few weeks here. But all that to say, and I did find one of the books that I've been actively wanting to read in there, so that's good. And clearly I have plenty to keep me busy for a while. So yeah, I don't think anyone didn't know that I'm a massive book hoarder. Even now that I'm getting rid of some books, I still have so many, and there's still a whole box back home at my parents' waiting for me to pick it up sometime in the future. But I just think I'm still hanging on to this dream that one day we will have a house where I can have a whole room that's a library. It's always been my dream, and eventually it might be once the kids are grown and gone and don't need every single piece of space in the house. But someday I'm going to make that happen. So I need all these books to fill up that library. That's what I keep telling myself. So number 4, speaking of kids, my youngest turned 1 just a couple months ago, and she has just been growing in leaps and bounds lately. Like, she just started walking a few days ago. She's doing all kinds of new tricks, just getting so big. And one of her very recent developments is almost any time that I put her down, she'll head straight to her sister's room, and there's a little basket that we keep on their bottom shelf of their bookshelf that just has these little, just like almost booklet type books in it, just like little tiny books with a few pages, a few words on every page, whatever. And she goes straight in there, starts taking the books out and looking at them. And then the last few days she started going in there, grabbing a book, and then she'll come bring it to me and hand it to me, like desperately, in her own way, begging me to pick her up and read to her. So I'll pick her up, read her the book, and every time we finish the book, she'll grab it from me, look at it, and go, oh, and then hand it back to me, so I'll read it to her again. And it has just been the cutest thing, and of course just makes my book-loving heart so happy. And I know that she sees me reading to her sisters, and so she knows that's something we like to do. which makes me really happy also, because that's always a goal of mine, is that as a family, I know not every child of mine is going to be as into reading as I am, to say the least, or at least it's unlikely. But as a family, I want us to value reading. I want them to see me valuing it. And so the fact that she loves to have me read her, that she knows books are exciting already at her age has been so much fun to watch. And it's just getting me excited for another girl being able to actually understand the books we read together, because we read together a lot and I love it so much. So, hold on one second. Number 5. My currently reading. So I mentioned I have this stack of books that I need to get through and see if I even want to keep. And so I've been going through a few of those, and the one I'm on currently is called A Treasure Deep by Alton Gansky. And that was one that when I picked it up, I just said, I have no idea what this is, no idea how I got it. I just have no idea. I don't have any recollection of this. But like, it might be good. So I'm reading through it, kind of speed reading, and it's been interesting. So it's a Christian, I guess you'd call it like suspense type novel. And so far, I'm about a third of the way in, and I have very mixed feelings about it, because I am finding myself interested in the story. And I'm definitely finding myself pulled in, because there's a lot of mystery and a lot of things he's making you wait to find out. And, that's a great trick for pulling someone into a story, is making them want to find out things that you're not revealing to them, classic mystery strategy. So there's that, and there are parts of it, like some of it I would say is good, like I guess like the pacing of it is good. There are things about it that I like, but I would say personally that it is very poorly written. The dialogue is very stilted, and there's a lot of over-explaining, a lot of repetitiveness, even some sentences that are requiring me to kind of like stop and go back and try to figure out what it's saying, just like a lot of stuff like that. And that's just makes it hard to enjoy reading something. And yeah, we'll see. I'm originally, as I was reading it, I was just like, okay, there's no way I'm keeping this. Like, this is not good. But like I said, I'm kind of pulled into the story, so I'll withhold judgment. I imagine it's going to go to be sold at the bookstore, but we'll see. It is always nice to read other, Christian writers, and I would say the Christian aspect is well done. At least so far, it does not feel remotely preachy. It feels natural. So I appreciate that a lot. But we'll just see. We'll see how it goes. I will try to let y'all know once I finished it, but I plan to finish it in like a day or two, and it's a good chance I might have already forgotten it by the time I come back. So we'll see. But yeah, I'll talk also a little more about it in just a minute. So number 6. A friend of mine sent me a reel on Instagram the other day that was a writer talking about how happy it makes them to see such like best-selling, successful books that are written so much more badly than this person's own books. And I relate to that so much. Like when I'm reading a book like this one I'm currently reading, that is allegedly, successful. It has really good reviews on Goodreads, stuff like that. It brings me way more comfort than I feel it should. Just knowing that, because I'm pretty hard on my own writing, and it's definitely needs a lot of improvement. I have so far to go. I have a lot of my own issues in my writing. I know it's not perfect. I know it's not the greatest. But I can look, I feel like, at some books, and not just Christian books. Like I talked about this with The Maze Runner. Like back when I first started this podcast, the Maze Runner books were written so badly, and they were so successful and had movies made out of them. And so that kind of comforts me to know, you know what, if they can make it, maybe I can too, because I'm at least better than that, And I was thinking about that this morning as I was kind of setting up for the podcast. That sounds spiteful. Like it kind of has like the vibe that I'm just saying, yay, I'm not the worst. But that's really not even exactly how I feel. when I have these thoughts. It's more like it's genuinely comforting, because to me it reveals how much people, readers, watchers, audiences, whatever, how much people will put up with to get what they want out of a story. Like, people really will put up with a lot of mistakes and flaws in a story if it has what they're looking for. So, people had a hunger for a Christian suspense novel that will really pull you in, and this book delivers on that. And so they're willing, clearly lots of people willing to overlook the flaws in the writing. Same with Maze Runner. It had something that people were interested in enough that they didn't mind, or at least were willing to look past the problems with the story. And I think about that a lot, especially when it comes to Firmament. And I know that some of the books, especially the earlier ones, are not as great, and just that there are weaknesses there. And I think about the old original Star Trek series and how awful it was. Like, so much of it. I'm a huge Star Trek fan, but I've been rewatching some of them recently, and oh my goodness, not only is it so cheesy, just all around, it's so cheesy. Oh my goodness. Just, yeah, it's a lot. But also, some of the episodes are just straight up bad. Like, there's some that really are good and like good, interesting stories and things like that, but some are just so bad, honestly. Like, they're just not good. And yet I will sit and watch them because I love those characters. I love them so much. I will even watch them just fly around in spaceships and do nothing in the motion picture. So I'm willing to put up with the insane amount of cheesiness and whatnot because I want to see these characters. And it gives me hope that that can be an attitude that people have towards my writing, that if it has something they're looking for, that with the Firmament series, if there are young adults out there that are interested in science fiction stories that have a Christian worldview, that they'll be willing to be okay with the fact that I overuse words like slightly, and that sometimes there might be plot holes that I didn't catch and things like that. And so, I don't know. It sounds almost kind of mean to say, like, well, their book is so bad that maybe I can make it too. But I really don't mean it that way. I really do mean that seeing what people can be okay with, if a story has something they want, is really encouraging to me as a writer. So thank you all so much for listening. I hope that the audio quality this week is a little bit better, but I will keep tweaking the process, and I will keep uploading things to YouTube. So again, please go there to my channel, J. Grace Pennington, J. Grace the author, and subscribe if you don't mind. And I am open to doing video podcasts in the future, but either way, I will be getting podcasts up there. So if you like to watch YouTube, my husband loves YouTube and like listens and watches stuff on there all the time. And so he's been super helpful to me as I try to figure out what works for YouTube. So if you like that, then you'll be able to get the podcast on there in the future. And yeah, so I've got lots of things to work on, but again, thank you so much for taking the time to just be with me this morning. Please let me know any thoughts you have, again, about YouTube, about if you've read A Treasure Deep, or just any books that you've read where you had mixed feelings but were willing to maybe look past some flaws. Would love to discuss those, any of those with you, because again, I do think it's interesting to see, like, where is that threshold for people? How much are they willing to put up with in a book? So would love to have those discussions with any fellow story lovers. So again, thank you all so much for listening. I hope that everyone has a great day and a great weekend ahead, and stay improbable. Bye!